All right, we got a little bit of dead time until things really get going in about another month and a half when the training camps begin. We just got done with OTAs. Lions Talk Live, like we told you all, we're going to take a little time off since it's a slower time of the year. But now that we're getting back on the air, we want to come at you guys and say, hey, who are going to be the rookies that impact this team the most in the 2023 season? We're going to dive into all that and maybe just a little bit more in today's Lions Talk Live. Well, greetings and salutations everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host once again, Dan Thornton. I want to thank you all for tuning in on this very nice holiday season. Hopefully you're all having a great day with families, friends at the beach, whatever it may be. And it's maybe towards the end of the day you're looking to unwind a little bit and you're tuning into this video, whether it's today or in the upcoming days. But I do believe the Lions have a real opportunity to have strong impact from this rookie draft class. If you watched OTAs, it's probably not going to be a lot of shock or surprise for what I'm going to say, but we're going to go through a few specific people that, at least in my opinion, are going to impact large on the upcoming season. Maybe even a potential Rookie of the Year candidate, and it might not be who you expect. So, without further ado, I want to ask you all, before we get into the video, please think about subscribing. If you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, we do a ton of videos, especially during the season. We do daily videos. But if you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Leave a thumbs up and interact with everybody in the community by leaving some comments on this video in the section below. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. When April's draft hit, I think most people, it'd be fair to say, did not see Gibbs coming over to the Detroit Lions. The very talented running back out of Alabama came on over, the number 12 pick after we traded down. And let's just all be real. Probably not too many people saw this coming. But what we can say after watching OTAs is this guy is not just a running back. He's not going to be just this, that, or anything. He is going to be, like Brad Holmes talked about, Dan Campbell talked about, he's going to be an offensive player. And one that I think we go a year or two from now, teams or people are going to come back, especially the media, and revisit this draft and go, wow, there are going to be a lot of teams that missed out on this guy that probably should have went for him. But say what you want, we got this from OTAs. He is a difference maker. He is a rocket ship blasting off at the goal line, taking off from one side of the field to the other side. He's going to be an X receiver, a wide receiver. He's going to be all over the field. And I'm going to say this, if you're a defensive coordinator, that's going to cost you a lot of nights of little sleep. Why? Because you got to figure out who you're going to put on this guy. If you put somebody like a cornerback on him and they flank them out wide or put them out wide on the sideline and then they move him inside to be a running back, that's going to be an issue. It's my anticipation with Jabari Gibbs that we're going to see him play running back, slot receiver, wide, outside wide, X receiver. You're going to see him all over the field. I wouldn't even be surprised if at times you see him under center and Goff is not in. I do believe the Lions will have the opportunity to run some wildcat with them. But the basis of this thought is this. Just like Holmes and Campbell talked about, he's going to be a matchup problem for everybody. They're not just going to pound him up the middle, out wide, out of the running back in the backfield position 99% of the time. He's going to be a matchup problem for every defensive coordinator, every linebacker, every strong safety that drops into the box to pick him up, because of his elite speed, his elite, skill sets as far as catching the ball, his ability to get open. If you've seen the videos from OTAs, you'll see real quick how quickly he can separate. When he plants and then turns the burn, he gets separation and a whole lot of separation. I could see some real deep shots down the field from Goff to him. And man, if there's a linebacker on him with no safety over the top or other, zone coverage to help support, it could be a lot of touchdowns being easy for the Detroit Lions. Like the rest of you, when I was watching the NFL draft, and I was watching, I think I was watching it on the NFL app mostly while doing some broadcasts with you guys. You could see when Jack Campbell was selected, there was almost a hush, a pause over the NFL community that what are the Detroit Lions doing? Now, that being said, it's been since revealed, and surprisingly so, that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, among other teams, were sitting there hoping Detroit passed on Campbell so they could then select him. I mean, if you watch the Tampa Bay breakdown video of their war room, they are sitting there stating they're hoping to get a player. They don't name him, but if they don't, we want to get Cansey, and I forget who the third person was. Either way, it was clear Tampa Bay was going to take him if the Lions didn't. And for some reason, if neither team took him, it was clear that, according to the NFL now, weeks and months after the draft, other teams had this guy targeted, and they saw real value in him. So with that being said, with Campbell, the monster linebacker over the middle now for the Detroit Lions, and I've got to believe if you watch him just from day one in OTAs, here's an example for you. There was one point where he got matched up with Gibbs. Gibbs releases in a wheel route down the sideline, and Campbell takes up and covers him down the field. Even though the play goes to a different person, Campbell pursues him all the way to the far end of the field and the goal line. Does he end up catching up with Gibbs? No, he doesn't. But you can watch it in the speed. He never loses ground. And this is one of my big problems with 40-yard dash times. Are they, mostly very accurate? Yes. But do they always measure people correctly? No, they don't. Campbell, I'm sure we all are aware, in every other facet of his athletic testing in the NFL Combine was off the charts. One of the top 5 linebackers ever to test. And it's just some of his scores were just unbelievable for a man who's 6'4.5", 6'5", somewhere around 250 pounds. He had legendary stats. But the 40-yard dash time definitely impacted his draft capital. But watching him in OTAs and against somebody who runs a 4.3, do you ever see Gibbs really extend beyond? No, you don't. You see Campbell keep up with him the whole way. So let's just real quickly talk about Gibbs and Campbell. It's my anticipation, if you were going to ask me right here now, after OTAs, how we're going to see both of these guys in the rookie seasons, pan out. I'm going to say this. Gibbs is probably going to finish somewhere around, I'm going to say 1,700 yards. Not rushing, but I think a combination of rushing, maybe return yards, and then receiving yards definitely. I just think they are going to use him in so many different ways, it's going to be scary. The only thing I would say is when I talk about return yards, me personally, I hope they don't put him in on any kind of punt or kickoff returns. It's just he's not the biggest dude in the world, and why put extra bumps and wear on his body? But could it happen in certain situations? Absolutely. You could see if the game was on the line or something, a big moment, you want your best players out there because you're not worried at that point about this or that. You're worried about the moment. So, yes, I do believe he's going to get some opportunities to do that. Campbell, on the other hand, I think he's going to be the day one starter. And if you had to ask me, he's probably going to end up somewhere around 115 to 140 tackles. I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to guess he's going to get 2 picks and about 4 or 5 sacks as well, while forcing probably 3 fumbles. We'll see what pans out. Come back to this video at the end of the season. Let's see how he did. But if you're talking to me right now and you're asking me who are going to be the most impactful people nobody saw coming out of this draft class, I'm going to say this. In the first one, I'll say some people are going to speculate that Sam Laporte is going to be a breakout candidate for the Detroit Lions in the NFL, and I'm going to be another one who says that. I think he's got the ability to potentially be a Rookie of the Year candidate. Doesn't mean Gibbs can't be, but I think Laporte is going to be in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year. The reasons why: his blocking is already, as a guy who hasn't touched the field, at least by what you see in OTAs, plus what he did in college, I think he's a better run blocker from day one when he hits the field on opening day than TJ Hockenson ever was in his NFL career thus far, unless something egregiously changes with Hawk. So with that being said, there's no reason to really take him out of most packages since he can effectively block, and you see his ability to separate, his speed, and his yards after the catch that I think we're all going to see quite a bit of. This guy has got the potential to be the Triple Crown winner for a tight end, and that's rare in today's NFL. Most of the tight ends specialize in one or the other. You're either really, really great run blocker or you're really, really great, pass catcher. I think Laporte is going to be one of the top 5% of NFL tight ends that can do both. So if you're going to ask me right now for some prediction on stats for Laporte, I'm gonna throw it all at you, and I'm going to say this. It could be higher than this. I'm going to take him for 850-plus yards, and I've got him for 7 touchdowns. Book it, Dano, somebody once said. So I'm going to say this. Those could be light numbers, but I think the thing that's really going to add to his numbers is the first 6 games, as we all know, Jameson Williams is not going to be on the field. That means he's going to get a few more targets and have a few more opportunities. I do think part of the reason why Gibbs was drafted and targeted so heavily by the Lions. Yes, he's like we already talked about, he's a matchup nightmare for any defensive coordinator. The other part is, with Williams out, you could see Gibbs fill that role at times and the offense during those first 6 games. So with burners like that on the outside, you got St. Brown in there, you got in Montgomery running back. I think Laporte is going to draw a lot of one-on-one coverage, because who are you going to double? You can only double so many people before you leave nobody on somebody. And I don't see anybody leaving Laporte in 0 coverage. So with that being said, I do believe he's going to have a ton of one-on-one matchups early in the year. Later on, I think if you're a defensive coordinator, you're going to be forced to pick your poison. Who are you going to leave on one-on-one coverage? And I'm going to guess he's going to get it the vast majority of the season. All right, as far as the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go on a limb here and say Broderick Martin is going to be the man by the middle of the season. I believe from the middle of the season to the later part of the season, and definitely his second year, this kid's going to stand out. He's got all the things you and I can't teach. He's got size. He's got athleticism. And what I've liked more and more from listening to him talk and seeing his OTA video workouts, he's got drive and he's got passion. He wants to get better. He wants to be a leader on the team. He wants to be the first guy to run through a wall and knock something down. That's hard to teach. It's more often not in sports. I don't care if you're talking basketball, football, whatever sport it may be. Coaches can only do so much. If you got great athleticism, you may not always have the great work ethic, because things, especially younger in your life, became so easy. The opposite can also be true. You might have a great work ethic, but you don't have great athleticism, so you had to always work hard just in order to compete. Broderick Martin strikes me as one of the rare people that has the athleticism, has the size, but because he's been overlooked here and there, now has that temperament where he feels like he's always got to do his best and more in order to get some recognition. So the Lions might have known exactly what they were doing, trading all those draft picks to come up and get him. They might have a monster on their hand. I don't think Martin's going to come out from day one and be the starter or a starter on this, but I think he's going to be in the rotation. And it's my anticipation probably by week 3 or 4, you're going to see his snap count start going up exponentially. And like we said earlier, I do believe that middle to latter part of the season, if he's not a starter, he's going to be pushing for a starting spot. He might be getting even more reps than some starters, even though he may not be starting. Bringing him off the bench, spelling people, allowing an older veteran to start, and then get less and less snaps throughout the season. Whatever it is, though, I do believe they've got a home run waiting to happen with this kid. So here's what I'm going to say. He's going to get 4 sacks. Let's even push that up to 4.5 sacks this year. He's going to have 8 tackles for a loss, and that's a monster number for a defensive tackle who's not getting the majority of the snaps throughout the season. We'll see what shakes out, but if you're asking me, those are the stats I'm throwing out at you, and we'll have to come back at the end of the season, see where we go. All right, I won't get into the rest of the rookies. I think these are going to be the most impactful ones this year. I do think Green is going to end up making the team. I think he could develop, by year 2 or 3 into something. There's a lot of talent on this team, a lot of picks that came out of the draft that I think will end up impacting this team. It may not just all be right off the bat. Branch, I think, is going to play a strong role, but I do think it's going to be limited at first and then over time. I think we all can agree safeties, cornerbacks take a little bit more time to develop just because of the schemes and nuances. I think he's already got NFL tackling ability, hitting ability. It's just going to come down to him having to cover a little bit faster, a little bit more polished, wide receivers, or let's just say offensive players than what he's traditionally seen. We'll see how fast he does develop. All right, I'm not going to make this a long video because, it is a holiday, and I'm just trying to give you guys something on a slower day, slower time frame of the season for some news. Again, if you haven't subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. Hit that thumbs up button and go ahead and leave some comments in the section below. Hope you all enjoy your holiday. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Lions Talk Live.